Mr. Hand.
Here.
Mr. North.
Here.
Dr. Carmenter. Mr. Davis.
Here.
And Mrs. Farmer.
Here, please all rise for the flag salute led by Mr. James Johnson.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. In accordance with Public Law 231, notice of this meeting was provided to the press occurring in the Galloway Township Municipal Building on January 20, 2018. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on October 29th and executive session minutes from October 15th and October 29th?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Is there any abstentions?
Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Reading of communications, please.
Thank you, President Carmen. Good evening, everyone. We have one letter from Stacy Cullenay of Stockton University School of Education, thanking the district for hosting a tour of Roland Rogers and GTMS to visitors from a university in Taiwan. We got a lot of really positive feedback. Our visitors from Taiwan learned a lot, enjoyed themselves, and it was a great opportunity for the middle school in Roland as well.
Thank you. Presentations.
Yes, it is my pleasure to introduce this year's Student Council President, Olivia Vinelli. Welcome, Olivia.
Do you have anything to report to us this evening, or any questions or comments for us?
Student council just had a Thanksgiving food drive, and then Sunday we'll be participating in Johnny's Run.
Okay. When is Johnny's run?
It's kind of easier than it's a run for people to participate, and we'll be helping out. We'll be helping with
Very good, thank you. If you have any questions, just have Amy and she'll then hold you and get the answer for you. Moving on to the second presentation.
Yes, I do have a PowerPoint for this. Good evening again, everyone. As the board knows, and as the members of the public, particularly if your parents or guardians may recall, the last few years we've picked a topic each year and done a parental survey. This year the topic was school safety and security. We announced the survey electronically at all the back to school nights, and we were able to obtain 614 parents who did respond. We were hoping to go a little higher since it was earlier in the year, but we're pleased that we did receive a nice number of responses. The first question, basic demographics. Where does your child go to school? Obviously, if someone had a child at more than one school, that counted more than once, and parents were able to do the survey once and then go back and start it again, because you may have different answers based on which school you are responding. So you could see, not surprisingly, the smallest number was at Pomona, the smallest percentage of those 614 responses, because that is our smallest population, and then it did vary, with Arthur Brand being a little more than a third of the 614 responses. So then, how many children do you have attending a particular school? For more than 70% of the people who responded, they had one child at that particular school. 23% had 2 children, and then 3 children was not quite 6% of the respondents. 4 or more was less than one, so that doesn't mean there's someone out there. Again, this is the responses at the district level. The next question, because we were intrigued, how does your child get to school? And so from the respondents, more than 75% of them are children who take the bus. A small percentage of walkers, 20% parent drop-off, and any open comment I did not list for tonight's purpose. Then we get into the questions themselves. And just to go over the legend at the bottom of the screen, green is strongly agree, blue is agree, yellow, gold is disagree, I'll call that turquoise is strongly disagree, and then that pumpkin color is no opinion. One of the things I'm going to remind everyone, and I will point it out as we go along, depending on how the question is worded, will determine whether we'll be more pleased to see strongly agree or strongly disagree, and I'll point out some examples. So these are a series of statements that the parent or guardian is reading. The first row is, I feel this is a safe school. And one of the things that very often we look at when we do surveys like this is that strongly agree and agree. And so for that question, we can see, overwhelmingly, that was the answer. Then school rules seem reasonable. Students know what is expected of them. My child feels safe in the classrooms. And now you're going to get into a series of naming different places and does the child feel safe? So we have in the classroom, in the lunchroom, in the hallway. I'll remind you that you see this, that bigger section over there, they did not give an opinion. Again, that orange pumpkin, if you will, considering we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, is that no opinion. So when you look at this across the district, of the 614 people who responded, overwhelmingly, these responses were very positive. Would we like to see them all strongly agree? Of course we would. But we do feel positive about these results. We then move to the next series of questions, and the beginning of this goes back to naming places. So this first row is feeling safe in the bathroom, safe at recess or on the playground. And I'm not so surprised to see a bigger no opinion. Middle school does not have recess. They don't have playground. They go outside for phys ed or interscholastic sports. My child feels safe traveling to and from school. Then we shift gears a little bit and talk about, are the school rules clearly defined? So you remember on the prior slide we asked, are they reasonable? Now we're asking, do the parents and guardians feel they're clearly defined? Then you see parents and guardians are informed when their child has a discipline problem at school. Again, you have a larger than normal no opinion. It is possible because that means there never was a reason for that to happen. There wasn't a disciplinary issue about what they needed to be informed. Now, you're noticing a shift in this. Now the strongly agree has gotten very small. The agree might be a little bit bigger, but the bulk of the responses, for the most part, are now in the disagree, strongly disagree, or no opinion. These statements are all things that we hope are not happening. So in this top line, threats one student against another are common. The next line, physical fighting or conflicts happen regularly. Name-calling, insults, teasing happens regularly. And interestingly enough, the strongly agree, disagree in here is not quite as large. That agree is a little bit bigger. We know we have the HIB legislation, we have our preventative programs, but obviously that's a little higher than some of the other behaviors. students carrying weapons. You have a very large strongly disagree. In many of these, you have no opinion. And then students use drugs or alcohol at school. Once again, you have your bulk in the disagree, strongly agree. So again, that is positive to see, and certainly these are people's perceptions. Only the staff and students are actually here every day. Now shifting gears a little bit again, school personnel maintains open communication. And you can again see, we want positives on these again. So we have the strongly agree, disagree. School personnel follow up on all threats of rumor or violence. Probably one of the largest no opinions. And I will tell you, having started to pour through the many comments, a couple people wrote, I don't know what I don't know. How would I know if you followed through? And, certainly, for example, last year, when there was a threat written on the bathroom wall, there was information put out to parents about that. We were very clear about what was happening when it was something more serious like that. All visitors to the school are acknowledged and accounted for at all times. Is this row right here? My child's school is well prepared for an emergency. It was interesting, one of the comments, and I'm going to be curious to see how many times I see it, that I saw in this section is, well, I really don't know what all the procedures are. Can't you tell us? Well, the answer to that is no. A lot of the, children may go home and tell their parents what happened in a drill, but in good security, you don't go announcing what every procedure is. And then I am satisfied with the level of control the school maintains on all entrances and exits. Again, you have the bulk in that strongly agree section. Satisfied with the school's visitor policy. I feel arrival of my child's school is safe. I feel dismissal of my child's school is safe. I am very intrigued about those two questions in particular when we look at the results by school. Because each school has a different setup. Is the bus loop separated from the parent drop? Are you on a main road? Two schools on the same piece of property, etc. Then I feel comfortable calling my child's school when I have a suggestion, question, or concern. And you can see the bulk, again, was strongly agree, with a small percentage disagree or strongly disagree. Board members, if you do not see your email, I did email this all to you. So, then we asked folks to grade the school. And so, almost 60% of the parents gave an A. Almost 34% gave it B. We have 7% with a C, and then less than 1% are D and F. One of the things I believe Mrs. Westcott is going to be able to do for me is not everybody gave their name, but to see, can we connect the comments with someone who gave these lower grades to see what are they concerned, what is the concern that made you give us a lower grade? Is it that you don't have enough information? Is it something about pure security like lockdown? Is it related to that one section about name calling and insults and that whole piece? So again, this is the broadest level of results of the survey. So I want to share a few more pieces of information before I open it to questions and comments and tell you the next steps. Of the 614 people who responded, we asked everyone, would you be interested in a forum on school safety? And we asked if they were to give their names. Not that we wouldn't open it up to all parents and guardians, but we also felt if someone particularly interested, we could contact them directly. More than 200 of the 614 people expressed interest in that. So after winter break, we are going to be putting together a forum. Dr. Baldwin and I are part of the Coalition for a Safe Community here in the township and in the county. So we actually even talked about reaching out to the chief who runs the coalition and maybe do something joint. The high school is also involved, so there will be plans, and I will certainly keep the board apprised of that. So what I'd like to do is see if there's any questions or comments from the board, and then I can go over the next steps in terms of analyzing the data. I'll give the next steps, and then I'll ask that one more time. So, as I said, this is the broadest level. What Mrs. Westcott's going to be doing, number one, is breaking down the results by school. Both the questions and the comments that people typed in. So we can look at this school by school and see what are the positives across the district, what are the positives in a particular school if they differ at all. Where there are concerns raised in the comments, are there any that are across the whole district, or are there any that are particular to the school? And not to be negative, that is, if someone's asking a question, we either need to better educate them and their children, or maybe it's an idea and it is something that we need to reinforce or review. In addition to that, she can also connect different questions. So if somebody who may answer this way on this comment, can we connect it with another answer? So there's a lot of different ways she can delve further into that. These results will be posted on our district website. I'll write a little statement. In addition to that, one of the things that we have been talking about, and it came up when we did a secretarial training, is the concept of piggybacking. And if you're not familiar with that concept, let's say myself and Mrs. Avery and Mrs. Nixon are all walking toward the school at the same time. And I push the buzzer first, and the secretary asks me, who am I and why am I here? And I answer. What I'm not to do, I hate to say this, I'm not to be polite and hold the door and let Mrs. Avery and Mrs. Nixon come up to me, because then they're getting in, piggybacking with me, and maybe they really have no business entering the school. And so our thinking is some parents do this naturally. They don't wait and let the next person in. Other people do not, and this is something that has been raised, not the friendliest thing, but when you educate parents and let them know, each person needs to check in individually. Or if you want to wait for Mrs. Avery, wait and let her buzz again and let her announce herself as well. Let's not just all go in together. So that is something that, with sending the parents some information, with the results, kind of combining, here's the date of the forum, we hope you will join us, here's the basic results, here are some reminders about procedures, even, please don't get upset if you're asked for ID. Nobody's trying to be difficult or treat you unfairly. We're trying to keep your child safe and things of that nature. Additionally, we will look at all the results as an administrative team. Again, look for those patterns and positives to keep doing. Look for those items that were raised as a concern and how we can address them. And certainly let the staff at each school look at the results for their school, especially if there is something unique to that school. As I think the board knows, and probably everyone else in this room this evening, school safety and security never ends. It is a daily job. We are always adding something new. We are always looking to refine our procedures. Even last week's evacuation ran because of the electrical outage. That gave us the opportunity to practice an evacuation in a non-life-threatening situation. And so we debriefed about that, and we found a lot of positives. We actually came up with a couple things we want to further refine. So whether it's through a drill that we learn something or a real event, we're always debriefing and continuing to work on things. Once again, I'll ask if there's any questions or comments from the board. Thank you.
Someone do the lights? Thank you, Mr. Conover. Much better, thank you. Is there any public comment for that presentation this time? And just for the board, that was one of the surveys that we had asked Dr. Jacob to do last year as part of the goals. Moving on to superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to our attorney, Mrs. Halpern.
Good evening, everybody. This month I handled a few matters for the district. One was a student disciplinary matter, and the other was a residency review matter.
Thank you.
Attached to the agenda for the board is the absence suspension report for October, as well as the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report for the period of October 11th through November 14th.
Moving on to curriculum instruction, please.
Thank you. We have a series of resolutions on actually a variety of different topics, including approving the basketball and wrestling sports schedules, approving for the Smithville Elementary Corps to travel to Lake Rock to perform for radio broadcasting. We also have our student teachers from Stockton, as well as an OT, clinical experience students, and then finally home instruction for a series of students.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 1 through 5 under curriculum instruction?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Is there any board comment? Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Gentile.
Yes.
Mr. Hand.
Yes.
Mrs. Avery. Yes. Ms. Goldberg.
Yes.
Mr. Noor.
Yes.
Vice President Dace.
Yes.
And President Corman.
Yes. Finance and school operations, please.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Mrs. Nixon.
Thank you. The first item is an update on our Finance Committee meeting given by Chairperson John Moore.
Good evening, everyone. We had a very productive meeting tonight. Went over a lot of information. I have a big mouth, you probably can hear me anyway. We reviewed the November 2018 bill list. I'm happy to report that only $2.50 was spent by one of our schools for gas use. Unbelievable. Companies are really efficient. We've also talked about the ACES program, which is a statewide program. Districts have been in that for years, and we have an opt-in option that we're determining whether we want to do that or not. There's not really enough information yet on that opt-in for that particular aspect.
What is ACES, John?
Alliance for Competitive Energy Savings.
So it's an energy group coalition.
It's been around a long time. We also talked about an architect RFP. As everyone knows, we're out doing a lot of work in our schools all the time. Over Part of the problem was the audit, or the state changed some of the audit requirements. And of course, they didn't let the schools or the auditors know on a timely basis. So they got an extension to December 21st.
So we'll likely be extended.
Oh, yes, December 17th, we're in the BOE meeting, but we're hoping for December 17th.
Thank you.
That's actually happening throughout the state with all school districts.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other finance members? Moving on.
Number 1 through 5 are pertinent financial reports for September and October 2018. Resolution 6 is to approve the bills list. Resolution 7 is to approve September transfers for the 18-19 budget. Resolution 8 is to approve submission and acceptance of the revised fiscal year 19 IDEA grant to include fiscal year 18 carryover with the amounts listed. Resolution 9 is to approve on-tech consulting to continue to represent Galloway for E-rate application reimbursement processes. Resolution 10 is to approve the 18-19 nursing services plan. Resolution 11 is for approving out-of-district placement. The account and tuition are listed below. Resolution 12 is to approve PTE evaluation costs for out-of-district students on an as-needed basis with the cost and account numbers listed. And Resolution 13 is to approve the first 2 emergency bus evacuation drills for the 18-19 school year.
Thank you. Can I motion to approve items 1 through 13 under finances cooperation? Thank you. Is there any other board comment? Any public comment? May I have roll call, please?
Ms. Goldberg?
Yes.
Mr. Norn?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery? Yes. Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Mr. Hand? Vice President Dace?
Yes.
And President Carmen?
Yes. Facilities and maintenance, please.
Resolution 1 is to approve the following school configuration changes for the 18-19 school year, adding and removing preschool classrooms at the elementary schools. Resolution 2 is to approve change order number 1 for increase of the amount listed for the alterations and electrical upgrades at Arthur Rand and Ridgeway Elementary Schools. Resolution 3 is to approve change order number 2 for the amount listed for ATC systems and HVAC controls at Arthur Rand, Smithville, and Pomona Preschool.
Thank you. Can I motion to approve items 1 through 3 under facilities and maintenance, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any board comment? Any public comment? May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Mr. Norn?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery? Yes. Ms. Goldberg?
Yes.
Mr. Hand?
Yes.
Vice President Dace?
Yes.
And President Carmen?
Yes. Community use of school facilities.
Thank you. This week, this month's agenda has approvals related to PAL volleyball, the Atlantic United Galloway Girls Traveling Soccer, for both different gyms and different time frames.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 1 through 3 under community use of school facilities?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any board comment? Any public comment? May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Ms. Goldberg?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery? Yes. Mr. Hand?
Yes.
Mr. Norn?
Yes.
Vice President Dace?
Yes.
And President Carmen?
Yes. Personnel, please.
Thank you. We do have several retirements, and these are items out of respect that I do read in their entirety. First one is a resolution to accept with regret the letter of intent to retire from Lori Horn, teacher at Arthur Rand Elementary School, effective June 30th, 2019. Mrs. Horn has worked in the Galloway Township Public School District for 26 years, and her dedication and service to students and staff are appreciated by her entire school family.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item 1 under personnel?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Is there any board comment? Is there any public comment?
Maybe the rest of us missing. Do you take care of that too, Mr. Connor?
We'll just open the screen up and they go backstage.
Okay, thank you. I knew something was going on.
Wait, will you just keep an eye on, will you?
It is fat, that tends to frighten people more than
It's been here before.
Had a feeling.
Yeah.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Mr. Hand?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery? Yes. Ms. Goldberg? Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Nord,
Yes.
Vice President Dace,
Yes.
and President Carmen.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 2 is a resolution to accept with regret the letter of intent to retire from Catherine Katie Bishara, classroom assistant at Pomona Preschool, effective February 1st, 2019. Mrs. Bishara has worked with the Galloway Township Public School District for 25 years, and her dedication and service to students and staff are appreciated by our entire school family.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item 2 under personnel?
So moved. Second.
Is there any board comment? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Gentile.
Yes.
Mr. Hand.
Yes.
Mrs. Avery. Yes. Ms. Goldberg.
Yes.
Mr. Nord,
Yes.
Vice President Dace,
Yes.
and President Carmen.
Yes.
Our next one is a resolution to accept with regret the letter of intent to retire from Gillian May Eve, classroom assistant at Reed Road Elementary School, effective December 31st, 2019. Mrs. May Eve has worked with the Galloway Township Public School District for 10 years, and her dedication and service to students and staff are appreciated by our entire school family.
Can I have a motion to approve item 3 under personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any board comment? Is there any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Gentile.
Yes.
Mr. Nord,
Yes.
Mrs. Avery. Yes. Ms. Goldberg.
Yes.
Mr. Hand,
Yes.
Vice President Dace.
Yes.
And President Carmen.
Yes.
It should be December 31st, 18. We're getting ahead of ourselves there. I don't think she's telling us that. Year in advance. Thank you, Mrs. Carmen. We will fix that. The next the next 2 items are found in leave requests. Then we move into hiring a new staff. And we are pleased to hire Randy Guidos. I apologize, she's here if I did not say that correctly. For 4th grade at Reach Road in a lead position. Holly Suzars in a lead position also at Reach Road. Courtney Tura is moving to an educational interpreter position. We then have a transfer of a teacher in East Struble. We have approval of Richard Harris as the full-time head custodian at Graham. We have an increase of the substitute teacher pay rate from $85 to $100 per day for non-certified and $95 to $110 per day for certified. We then have the approval of an individual substitute teacher and a couple of substitute secretaries, and then finally a substitute custodial worker.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 4 through 14 under personnel, please?
So moved. Second.
Is there any board comment? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hand,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Avery. Yes. Ms. Goldberg.
Yes.
Mr. Nord,
Yes.
Vice President Dace.
Yes.
And President Carmen.
Yes.
Thank you. I am going to pause and ask Mr. Laycock, the acting principal at Reed Road Elementary School, to introduce our newest teacher.
I'd like to introduce Randy Weeders. She has been a sub in the district for several years, including a long-term sub in 4th grade as mentioned. We had a 4th grade special ed position open. So we thought it was a great fit. We're really excited to have her. She came to us tonight. Again, we're glad she's here.
Welcome.
Moving on to supplemental personnel, please.
Thank you. We have one of the team leader positions at Rome that was vacant is now filled. We also have staff members for the Smithville Elementary School Math STEAM Family Night, and then a correction of a rate for a classroom assistant to work with a student for co-curricular activities.
Can I have a motion to approve items 1 through 3 under supplemental personnel?
So moved. Second.
Any board comment? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Gentile.
Yes.
Mr. Hand.
Yes.
Mrs. Avery. Yes. Ms. Goldberg.
Yes.
Mr. Nord,
Yes.
Vice President Dace.
Yes.
And President Carmen.
Yes. Moving on to policy, please.
Thank you. We did have a policy committee meeting on November 5th, and I'll turn to Mr. Gentile, the chairperson.
Thank you. The policy which is up for first reading was called folks' attention. There's a new sentence in the second paragraph in that would provide that items for the agenda should be submitted at least 10 calendar days before the next board meeting. I would note that the chief school administrator and board secretary remain responsible for the preparation of the agenda comment process and resolve the agenda item. The other items are up to the second reading, one of those last time, and really affect the operation of the board. Everybody review them, neither the committee nor the administration received any request for any substantive changes, so I would suggest it's appropriate for those meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to, policy 1 is the first reading, so we're not formally approving that, but to approve. We still have to approve, okay. 1 through 6 on policy.
So moved.
Any board comments? I know that Mike had contacted me and said there may be a typo in one of the policies, so we may be contacting you. Other than that, we don't have board comments. Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery? Yes. Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Ms. Bolger?
Yes.
Vice President Tate?
Yes.
And President Harmon?
Yes, notice of public meetings, please.
Thank you. In December, we do have one meeting on the 17th, and then January 7th is the reorganization and regular meeting. And with mentioned reorganization, I know there has been a lot of question from different board members as well as some members of the public regarding the fact that we do not have the results for the third board candidate. There were a number of people that we became aware were running writing campaigns. Mrs. Nixon and her administrative assistant, Mr. Schwartz, have bordered on calling the county office of elections daily, emailing, etc. Not just our county, but the entire state experiencing an inordinate number of mail-in ballots and simply have not finished doing all of the counting. So we are continuing to check in with them. By statute, it's supposed to be done by tomorrow. So Mrs. Nixon is hoping to have those results tomorrow. And certainly, as soon as we have those results, we will email all of the board members, also notify those that we have contact information for that were writing candidates. So we're not forgetting about it, it's just not finished.
It's nice to be with Lord and Lord election.
There's also a series of special events. You have all the concerts listed for this winter. In addition to that, I did want to mention two things. We've had several board members, especially those who went to the school board's convention, asked about STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, or STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math events and activities. So upcoming, and we will email this to you as well, on November 28th, there is a STEAM night at Smithville School. And then on December 5th, there is a STEAM night at GTMS. I believe the other elementary schools will also be doing some type of night after winter break. In addition to that, either at the second January or one of the February meetings, our curriculum directors, along with some of the staff involved in this, will be providing a presentation to the board about the many different things that are happening with STEM and STEAM for our students.
Could you repeat the date for GTMS?
December 5th. And I will again email that because I need to confirm the times.
Thank you. In addition to, I guess it would fit in here, special events, we have on Saturday, November 24th, a dedication for a former board member at Patriot Lake. They're dedicating a bench.
Eventually, the plaque that the Galloway Township now purchased the work for them. It's even one of the goal setters for one of many people for organizing Imagination Station for the township. I hope a lot of people can make it.
11 o'clock at Patriot Lake.
Yes. Well, Imagination Station.
I thought it was around. No, it's
Now,
not.
Imagination Station, it's the only bench in the playground itself. You already have the bench on Patriot Lake at this way from Sunville.
Okay. And that's 11 o'clock on the 24th. Is there any other public comments coming before the Board of Education? We have, old business and new business, now. Tom? Or not.
Or not.
Or not.
Oh, no, not.
Should be last week.
Bro.
Are you guys done? Like, is this the time? Are you people to?
Give me 1 second.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Rich.
John said it all through, I was going to go through Olivia, which is what they had Thanksgiving, and all about people.
And Olivia, again, thank you for coming. If you have any other comments for us, you can certainly give it to Dr. Chico. She'll forward it, and we will come back in the spring with any updates. Thank you. And we do have one public comment.
Yeah.
Come to the microphone. Sure. If you come to the microphone, there's a sign-in sheet there. You can just state your name and whether or not you're a Galloway resident. And just try to limit your comments to approximately 5 minutes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm a Galloway resident, and I have 5 children, sophomore in Cedar Creek, freshman in Cedar Creek, and 8th grade son, which is why I'm here, 6th grade daughter, 4th grade daughter.
And your name again, I'm sorry.
Amanda Dockery.
Thank you.
That's okay. It's kind of something that really bothered me, and I don't know if you want your daughter to be present for this. I'm sorry.
Would you like me to not meet?
I would if I was her mother. So that's why I was asking to say that.
I'm curious.
Excuse me, Ms. Dockery?
Yeah.
Olivia?
Would you like me to slide?
Yes.
If you could just excuse her,
Yeah.
just so we can address that.
Okay, yes.
Okay, Ms. Halbelko is our board attorney, and she just advised, we don't normally talk about specific issues about students, so we don't know if this is a more general issue or if it's
It's an
specifically.
assignment.
I'm sorry?
It's an assignment that was assigned to my son 2 days before Halloween.
If you, I'm not really sure, I don't want to get into specifics and you or son in a public board setting.
Okay.
We can certainly, come to the side, we can close the meeting and speak to you in person, or we can,
We're not preventing you from speaking.
Exactly.
You can speak if you want to speak, but if you don't want to share because the meetings are being video recorded, if you don't want to share video and audio, if you don't want to share your child's personal information with the board.
It has really nothing to do with my child, it's just the assignment, so it's really the teacher and things that happened after I became aware of this assignment.
Okay, and then I'm just going to caution you, as I would any person, again, I'm not going to prevent you from speaking, but if you are going to speak about any individual's staff members, that you're responsible for any comments you say about them, that they could be considered defamatory or libelous or slanderous, and that the board would not be endorsing any such comments. But again, you're allowed to speak, we're not going to prevent you from doing so.
Okay.
and at this time, I know you had asked Olivia's mom if she wants to stay or go. Certainly feel free to make your decision.
I think she would handle it. I think she had the same assignment.
Okay.
She did have the same assignment?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm curious what she thinks about it.
Oh, okay.
So after all that, what are your comments?
I have a copy if you all want to see. Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
So he came home, and he had some pretty heavy questions for me that were brought on by this assignment. And so I came to the school, and I spoke with Mrs. White, the 8th grade vice principal, and she spoke with this teacher, and he reached out to me, and I spoke with him the following Monday. And I didn't really get anywhere with him. I didn't really get a good understanding of where this came from, because as a mother with so many children in the school district, I have been assuming that all of the curriculum is approved and all the assignments are well known by everybody. And pretty much I assume that they're blanket assignments. So every team taking social studies are taking the same assignments. And turns out that that's not true. And this teacher is under the impression that he can obtain materials from anywhere and pass them on to students, have students take these, and like my elementary students, I see every assignment they do. I know everything they do all day long. But once you get to middle school, there's more of like a trust. There's so many classes and so many assignments. You don't see every paper that they do. And had my child not had questions and worries, you know, about what was on this page, I never would have known. You know, and I've spoken to other mothers who are unaware that, you know, something like this is being assigned to their child. So I wanted to bring a copy. I wanted to see what you all thought about this. What is the policy on approved curriculum, or just anybody bringing in any materials? I asked him what other teachers assign this. He couldn't name any. I asked him where he got it from. He couldn't tell me. So I just, in my mind, I couldn't think that that would be okay with the board, with, you know, the administrators of the school. Certainly not okay with me. You know, 13-year-old children shouldn't be asked some of these topics on this page. I mean, for example, Mr. Ricca had to explain abortion to my son. That is wildly inappropriate to me. Wildly inappropriate. This is a public school. And as a mother and as administrators, I mean, we are all on the same page for protecting our children, guiding our children, and preserving our children. Like, let's just preserve them. They're young. You know? What would any adult want to know? Any of my children's opinion on some of these topics, especially at this age. They didn't even know what it was. I just feel like that's so inappropriate. And I didn't really get anywhere speaking. The principal told me that you'd be calling. That's all. We didn't get into anything else about it. Speaking with him, he didn't seem like concerned at all. And I just, anybody that I've talked to about this, I've passed around, just asking, you know, am I off? Is this the way that it is now? Like, is this just what us parents have to accept being assigned? And I couldn't find anybody that could agree that this is even slightly okay. And I don't know, are you aware of this assignment? Have you ever been made aware?
Well, I'll be happy to respond first. First, I'm going to give you your general question about materials. There is absolutely a process for the selection and identification of materials, and major programs are approved by the board. But teachers, not just in this school district, but everywhere, do use supplemental materials that are noted in their lesson plans, and every supplemental material could never come before the board, because that's done in the natural course of lesson planning. With that said, obviously administrators are reviewing lesson plans on a regular basis, and if something does catch their eye, they have to be doing an observation, then there is a discussion about that. In terms of this particular assignment, what I do not know off the top of my head is whether this is from the main program or not.
Well,
At the bottom.
He didn't make it seem
Okay.
like it was. I asked him
Yeah.
if it was part of the approved curriculum, and he said no, it's not.
Okay. At the bottom it says Lesson 2 Political Party
Oh,
Spectrum.
I saw that, and I figured
Yeah.
he got it from somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'd like to say to you, this is the first I am hearing of this. So other than what you are sharing with me at the microphone, I am not aware that this concern was raised. It's certainly something we will look into. One of the things I will say is, and we could get into each of these items and the appropriate of this whole thing, I do know at the middle school level, students do have discussions as what could be considered political or controversial topics to help them learn discourse, persuasive techniques, things of debate. I mean, that absolutely is something that happens. I am not indicating that I think this is appropriate or inappropriate, because again, I know nothing about the directions that were given, how this was used, what context it was, but we certainly will be looking into it to find out all of those things.
So I guess, I understand that certain things on here would be, something that you would debate on, something like that, but I can't believe that you would have it okay for 13-year-olds debating abortion.
I did not indicate that. So again,
So that's why it is wildly inappropriate. I mean, I'm not,
you're just bringing this to my attention, so I'm only going to give you that general response until I have the opportunity to investigate this, and then, if you filled out the chart, I will have your contact information, and will be inviting you in to meet with me in person,
Okay, all right,
without question.
okay.
And thank you for bringing this.
Yes, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you will get back to us.
Absolutely. With only having tomorrow and Wednesday during spring break, my plan is to do the investigation this week and email you to set up a meeting for next week, if that's agreeable.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody that has any other public comments? Okay, having said that, we do not have a session.
I'm sorry, since this is under investigation, would be able to make a hospital for a different perspective on the same topic?
If you'd like to come here to public comment, you just have to come to the microphone so you can hear. If you fill out the form, state your name, whether or not obviously you're a Galloway resident, and just try to limit your comments to 5 minutes.
And again, the same rules would apply for any comments that you make about it.
After reviewing this, I'm sorry, I'm Michelle Manelli, I'm Olivia Manelli's mother. I do live in Galloway. I have 2 children in the school system, both here at the middle school. After reviewing this, I actually kind of liked it. I thought it was an interesting tool, because nowadays kids are exposed to so much that we have no control over. I'd rather personally have them learning about it in school, in a controlled environment, learning the appropriate things. And, there's so much in the media recently with the elections and everything, I don't think kids really have a firm understanding of, what it is to be a Democrat or a Republican. They tend to just, what I've noticed, follow in their parents' footsteps. But I think this is a strong tool for helping them kind of think on their own and develop educated opinions. And I know it's scary and it's sad to see them growing up so quickly, but kids this age are way more adult, I would say unfortunately, than we were when we were 13, by far, just because of what they're exposed to.
And again, I just want to say, so again, this is not unfortunately a debate, so you have the floor right now, so any comments you want to make, please direct them to the board president.
I just wanted to put that out there as another parental view on the very same thing.
We appreciate that. And would you like Dr. June to get back with you as well, or this was just a comment for her consideration?
If she would like to, I'm curious as to how that goes and if this is in line with my thinking. If I saw this coming from here, we don't have as much control or a view into what is going on in school. I think they're pretty independent at this point. They're doing their homework on their own. I don't know the specifics like I used to when they were in elementary school. But if I saw it, I personally would not have taken any offense to it. I actually am pretty impressed.
We appreciate those comments as well. Is there any other public comment this evening? Having said that, there's no executive session, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved. Second.
All